Hi everyone. I'm sorry I lost you last week. I had filmed a wonderful garden video for you and then it got eaten by just the random world of data problems. So it disappeared and it had been a long week and I just didn't come out and film another one. So anyways, moving on. It's another week. These little baby sunflowers have started blooming. They didn't get very big. You can see a bunch of buds down there. They haven't gotten very big. They're probably not going to do too terribly much, but they're still cute. They're still bringing pollinators around, which is great. And they're keeping weeds from being there. You'll see there's something missing right here. That was my row of mainly weeds. It was supposed to be herbs. The borage, dill, and fennel were pretty much the only things, and cilantro were pretty much the only things that did anything. So it mainly was just a row of weeds. So yesterday my dad and I came out and took the lawnmower to that row, and the one on the other side of this first row of green beans, which was the other row of green beans. Just to get weeds down, but also to be in preparation of starting things for fall. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to plant where. I think this row right here, this empty row, obviously not going to bother my flowers. They're fine. They'll keep going well, definitely till frost. So I'm not going to bother them. But this empty row, I believe, is going to be black-eyed peas. I have to get them in the ground by next week, supposedly, for them to have enough time. So I think that's what's going to go here. I already have seeds for them, so I figured why not. But when it gets to the shade down there, it also gets very clay-like soil. So I don't know that I'll go that far. If I have enough seeds, I'll do all the way down there. If I don't, I think I'm just going to let that grow. Might plant it in buckwheat or something, but we'll see as we go. The green beans looking a little bit better than they were, but they're really at the end of their season. They are still blooming and making little baby green beans, but mainly at this point I'm using them as fertilizer, but also as a weed block, so basically as mulch. I think what I'll do, I might try and pick one more time since they are blooming. I may run through there and try and pick them one more time. Probably, well, I'll try to do it before we have this heat wave coming Friday. But pick them one more time, and then what my plan is, I don't know if I'm gonna just kind of like stomp them flat, or if I'm actually going to pull them up and lay them. I want to use them as mulch for probably tomatoes. I think I'm going to put my little tomatoes right here. I'll tell you about that when I get over to where the tomatoes are, but I think that's what I'm going to put here. If not, it might end up being some brassicas, so broccoli, cauliflower, not cauliflower, I'm not doing cauliflower again, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, that kind of stuff. They may go in these rows because these were, since beans are nitrogen fixing, they're taking nitrogen out of the air and out of the soil and concentrating it in their root system and in their plant system. So that's why I would like to keep as much of the plant matter as possible, because it is so high in nitrogen. And things like your brassicas, your broccoli and your cabbage, your Brussels sprouts, they need very, very high levels of nitrogen. So I'm hoping I can use the beans and get what I need. So you'll see the drip tape here. I pulled it up from these 3 rows so that we could cut and manage them a little better without cutting our drip tape. We'll get that put back down once we decide what we're going to do. So those are currently off. They all have these little switches coming off of the main here. You can see they all have these little switches, and I can just turn them on and off depending on if I want them to get any water. We've had about 3 inches of rain over the last week, So, which it doesn't look like it looks very dry. But we've had about 3 inches of rain, so I'm not currently running the irrigation system. That will probably change come, honestly, I'll probably turn it back on today while I'm out here. Butter beans, they're looking okay. Still a lot of weeds in them, and a lot of them have fallen over, so they're really hard to pick. And I also, you'll see, so you probably can see all the brown ones? There's a bunch of those. There's a bunch that stopped. You can see them over in that other row. There's a bunch that stopped growing before they were really big enough, and they just have turned brown and shriveled up. So I think what I'm going to do, I've done some reading on late planting of butter beans, and I think if I can get these in the next week or two, a new planting of butter beans, I think I'll have enough time to get some in before fall. The reason I want to try again is because butter beans seem to be the same way as corn and tomatoes and things like that, that once it gets over a certain temperature, their flowers don't do well. They'll abort the pods that they're already growing. And you'll see, like, look at this plant. All those brown ones. Yeah, so waste of time, waste of energy. I'll probably pull up the whole plant and get those brown ones off. I was able to pick, probably 3/4 of a peck there of brown ones and green ones. And we'll see how they are when I start shelling them. But I think I'm going to try a fall crop of them. If you'll remember, these are Henderson Henderson butter beans. That's the variety that I tried. And you'll remember the second row didn't come up very well. I think I had a issue with my seeder. So I think what I'll do is do one really good row for the fall. I'm not sure exactly where that's going to go just yet. I don't know that I want to plant it in the exact same spot. So we'll play that by ear. Peanuts. Oh, I'm running into the electric fence. Peanuts have really gone crazy. They've gotten really wide, and they were wider than what you're seeing. Because if you go down here, ooh, I just saw some good butter beans to pick. If you go down here, like, they're probably twice as wide as the row I planted them in. And they were wider, but we came and cut on both sides. We may have done away with some peanuts by doing that, because I don't know if all the way out here, so you'll see blooms all the way out here, which is probably about a foot outside the center of my row. I don't know if they're creating peanuts off of where those blooms are. So, like, is it trying to make a peanut straight down from where that flower is? And if so, I may have eliminated some of its peanut making abilities yesterday. I'm trying to cut some of this down because the weeds had just gotten so bad it was just unbearable. I'm going to grab these butter beans right here. So there's a couple right here. See that? And you'll hear some banging in the background. That's people building a house on the other farm. I actually missed a bunch right here. But that's people building a house way over the way. Let's see. Let's go over here, toss these in the bucket, and we will go show you the fancy cotton. So, our cotton, you'll see these ones right here, real short, and then they get crazy. Well, if you come down here, something we've been waiting and waiting and waiting for, and there's actually, I saw yesterday, so here's the beginnings of a cotton bloom. can see down in there. It's really pretty. There's a little pollinator down in there, but there was a really pretty one. Let's see if I can find it. They don't. So this is one that hasn't bloomed yet. Tight like a rose. Let's see if I can find the really pretty one. Might not be able to find it. But it was gorgeous yesterday. I think it might have closed up. There's another one. Where did you go? There's one right there. You can see it. Get things out of your way. They're beautiful blooms. So like I've probably mentioned before, these we just grow because they're pretty. Let me get down here where I can get further away from them so you can see better. But they're really pretty plants. They're like a burgundy color. You can't really see it that well on the camera. But what will happen is now that they're starting to bloom, now it'll be a while before they've all bloomed, but now that they're starting to bloom, in about 50 to 60 days, we'll actually have the ball of cotton to harvest, which that's really neat. So definitely subscribe and stick around so you can see that when that happens, if you've never seen cotton growing before. And for reference, these plants, so they're easily to my belly button tall, and I'm 5'8", so they're 3.5 feet tall easily. And they're looking great. They have outgrown the grass, which is exciting. But yeah, that's not a whole lot of pests. There's a little bit of damage, like you'll see some random holes, but it's not bothering the plant, so I'm just letting them be. If you come down here, see, look, a peanut all the way out here on the other side of Cotton's row. Like, that's nuts. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but those peanut plants are crazy. So then down here, you'll see the white dusted plants. These are sweet potatoes. And you'll see their leaves have gotten much larger. They're running all over the place. I sprinkled them with diatomaceous earth, or DE as lots of people call it. It's a little fossilized creature, I believe is how they describe it. But it's basically like putting asbestos on something. So a bunch of little glass shards basically is the best way to describe it. And so little beetles and things, when they crawl over them, it puts cuts in them. It's kind of gruesome, but it puts little cuts in them and it dehydrates them and it kills them. So we were having some trouble with things chewing on the leaves. You can see all these little spots. So I was throwing some DE on the pumpkins to try and do away with my squash bug problem. So I figured I would throw some on them at the same time. So moving to our pumpkins, you can see everybody's white, and some are doing better than others. We have lost one. We've already had one casualty down here at the end. I saw a lot of squash bugs when I was out here yesterday, so I went through and I sprayed all of these guys with soapy water, and then came back and sprinkled them with diatomaceous earth. Now I will say yesterday when I came out, I'd say these last 8 plants had at least 2 or 3 squash bugs on them. Look, there's one right there. Oh, can you see him? He's beside that brown leaf. There he is. And his friend. And his baby. I'm gonna squish them real quick. But I will say, sorry, got distracted by the land of squash bugs. So I read where you could try that. Try putting the soap out. Try doing the diatomaceous earth. Also said that they don't like marigolds, that marigolds are a good deterrent. But if you look, my pumpkins are right beside my marigold hedge. So I don't know that I believe that, but I did. I had broken a few pieces of marigold, so I brought and put them around them here. But if you'll look, there was squash bugs walking on that marigold stalk right here. So I don't know that I believe that one either. But anyways, we may get pumpkins. We may not. I'm not feeling too enthusiastic about it. But if you look over here, we can check on our watermelon. See if I can get down in there to look at him. You'll see he's growing pretty funny shaped. But yeah, it's growing. Let's see if we can find the baby one that was over here. Unfortunately, the grass is growing too. So here's that baby one, which unfortunately looks like it's starting to rot on the end. That black spot on the end is probably not going to make it. And the bush ones that I had over here, I don't know that I can find. But anyways, so watermelons may be something that we have and don't have as well, because the weather's just not right for them. Too wet, and I kind of planted them in a spot that stays too wet. And the grass is getting so out of control that I can't. I really needed to have mulched them and kept them better protected. So if we'll get a watermelon, we'll be grateful for it. If we don't, it is what it is. So, squash, all the squash, zucchini, they're all gone. Squash bugs took care of them. I did have a theory on squash plants, and I think I'll try it out next year. I did some research on squash plants, and you'll see there's nothing here but weeds. But I did do some research on squash plants that said that the older squash leaves contain more of the squash bug attracting scent than the younger leaves, because I was noticing that there are way more squash bugs on the larger yellow leaves, leaves that were becoming yellow, versus on the brand new bright green leaves. And my thought process was, okay, well, let's see, the Native Americans, they grew, look at these cute little tomatoes. Oh, can you see them? There they are. But the Native Americans, they grew the three sisters, so the squash, corn, and beans all together, and surely they had a squash bug problem too. So what did they do different? Well, they ate the squash leaves. So by eating the leaves, you weren't leaving something out there to attract the squash bugs. But interestingly, they only ate, or they preferred to eat, the young bright green leaves. Reason being that the older leaves were bitter. So that's why someone went and researched and said, okay, well, what is it about the older leaves that makes them bitter? And that's how they found out that they contained more of the, I think it's called curcumin or something similar to that, or curcumin something. I'll put the spelling up because I have no idea how you pronounce it. But it's in cucumbers, it's in all your different varieties of squash, so pumpkin, zucchini, squash, all those kind of things. But the larger, older leaves had a higher concentration of that, which is the scent that attracts the squash bugs. But the reason that the plant has it is because it works as an herbicide. So, not an herbicide, as a deterrent. So it's keeping, it's that bitter taste is also bitter to things like, sorry, there's a bee. It's also bitter to things like deer who would come and want to munch on it. So the plant is using it as a deterrent, but it now is an attractant for squash bugs. So I need to do a little bit more research and a little more figuring and see exactly what's going on there. I'm going to figure out the squash bug problem one way or another. Now I will say with these types of squash that I grew, so remember talking about the different types of zucchini and the straight neck versus crook neck squash. So I will say that the black, I think it was called, well, I'll have to put the name up for you, but the zucchini variety that I grew and the squash variety that I grew, oh, you just missed a hummingbird. Look, can you see him? Oh, he flew away. We have some hummingbirds that are kind of hovering around. But the type of zucchini that I grew and the type of squash that I grew, other than the dark green zucchini, they did take a lot longer before the squash bugs got them. So I was able to get a lot of harvest in before the squash bugs really became a problem. So I would recommend growing those if you have a squash bug problem, because I think you would have long enough to get the harvest that you need before the plants just are sacrificed. And if you want to succession plant every 2 or 3 weeks, plant some more a little further away, you probably could get them all throughout the summer. Get some squash, that is, all throughout the summer. But anyways, I've rambled on long enough about that. You can see my pepper plants are really suffering in this heat and dry. They probably won't last much longer. This one's interestingly putting out a tall, brand new shoot. And look, hey, check it out. Guys, we got a praying mantis. Whoop, let's see if I can get him where you can see him better. Here we go. And you see him? Check him out! I love a garden praying mantis. So he's wonderful to have in your garden. You want lots and lots and lots of them. I actually don't know if that's a he or she, but you want lots and lots and lots of them. They are wonderful. They eat all sorts of things that you don't want in your garden. And usually if you have one, you have many. So that's a great sign. That's also something you're going to see more often in organic gardening than you are in conventional gardening because they're quite sensitive to most of your pesticides and herbicides. These peppers though, these purple peppers, sorry, there was a bug on my neck. These purple peppers have really been producing. I mean, look at this one. Look how many are down in there. You see them all? They've really been producing. Are not getting very big. Like, look at this bell pepper. That thing has gone wild. The bell peppers are only giving me like 1 or 2 at a time, but I can pick probably a dozen of these purple ones at the same time, and they are a bell pepper variety. And if you look, all of these are getting new little shoots, new blooms, little baby peppers, so maybe I can limp them along and get more peppers. I haven't had real big of a harvest of them, so it would be nice. Tomatoes are starting to suffer for sure in this heat, starting to have these curled up leaves, but they are putting off some new shoots. So you'll see this one's got some spider mites on it. Can you see those little red guys right there? So that's not great. But they've pretty much done what they're going to do for this time of year. And I'm actually going to start over on my, tomato crop. So I'm going to try sowing some directly in the ground from seed. And then I'm also going to, I've taken some cuttings off of all these where they're making these nice new green shoots off the top. I've been taking cuttings off of them and putting them in water in my house. You can see, like, look how beautiful and green this bit is. I'll probably cut that off and take it with me versus this yellowy, shriveling up mess. So I'm going to try to see if I can get a fall crop of tomatoes going, because I haven't been able to harvest the abundance of tomatoes that I'd like to have. See all these new shoots. This is a new one. Here's one here. Here's one here. And you'll see all of these Juliettes. If you could only grow one tomato and you like to eat fresh tomatoes or canned tomatoes, I would say grow the Juliettes. So they're about that big, but they don't split. They're prolific, and they just grow. They don't seem to care about anything that happens to them. And they're great. So I would say if you can only grow one, grow Juliet. I would not recommend these Sun Golds. That's these little guys. I would not recommend them if you're in a place that ever has waxing and waning rains. So if you're ever somewhere that gets like here, where you have no rain and then you have an abundance of rain, and that happens frequently, they don't do well. They split a lot. You'll see down here my hot mess of paste tomato vines that have all fallen over and pretty much given up. So I'll probably in the next week or so come and eliminate all of this, run the lawnmower through here and get rid of it all, and plant a new batch of tomatoes over somewhere else where they'll be safer. And I will make sure that those go right into tomato cages instead of trying to deal with all this wire and string and stuff. That just wasn't for me. The next exciting thing, if I can get down here without getting tripped up by something, is that our baby corn is finally tasseling and putting out its little silks. And a lot of it is probably ready for me to harvest. So I'm going to come back out when I'm done showing you everything and harvest some. And I'll show you what that looks like. I'll insert a clip so you can see. But they're looking great. It's a very pretty, like, fuchsia color silk, which is very interesting. It's gorgeous in the garden. I would say the tallest one is this one right here. And it's, oh, look at the Japanese beetles. It's probably 6 foot tall. But it looks like the majority of them are about 4.5 feet tall. And they're loaded with ears. I'd say each one easily has 4 little ears on it. I read on the packaging that from each seed, you're supposed to have 3 or 4 stalks that come up. And then from those stalks, you're supposed to be able to harvest about 20 ears. So it makes me think that they're going to keep producing once you pull some ears off. So we'll see what happens. I'll try that. I have a feeling these stalks are going to be really brittle, just looking at this one. I have a feeling that they're going to be brittle, and when you go to pull the ears off, they're just going to break. But I'll try to be gentle, and we'll see what happens. But they're looking great right now. They are really pretty pink going on there. I see the little, this is your little ear right here, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I'll get those pulled off and show them to you. Our zinnias are starting to flower, the ones that you'll remember I planted right here in the grass. They're looking great. This pretty light pink one. The butterflies are loving them. So we've seen a lot of butterflies. And hummingbirds as well. Cucumbers are pretty much giving up on cucumbers. They're just kind of hanging out. There's still our little baby ones. And there's a big one right there, but I don't like cucumbers, so I don't really, when it comes to this time of year, if they haven't done what they're going to do, I'm not going to limp them along. The corn's done. It's just hanging out till we feel like doing something about it. I'll probably try to put peas in here, green peas for the winter, and probably something else, but we'll see. Sunflowers are looking great. We've got just about every color and style, I think, now. This is a really pretty one. It's got a bee, well, had a bee on it. That's a really pretty one. I don't know what variety that is. This is another one of those thin petaled ones. But they're gorgeous. Some of them are, like that one is really tall. That's easily 8 foot tall, maybe 9. You'll see another one way down there. But they're looking great. They're very happy. They're kind of at the point now where they're making seed. And so the little goldfinches are coming over and feasting. Flowers are looking okay on this end. Zinnias are starting to really take off. But this end is very dry. I think being so close to the trees right here. So things are just not doing too well in that section. But anyways, so quite a bit of change, I'm sure, from what you remember last time. And I apologize again for missing all of that for you. But the biggest thing has just been harvesting. Lots and lots and lots of harvesting. Mainly tomatoes, green beans a couple times, peppers. But now we're at the stage where it's kind of just maintaining. Like I said, in the next, probably week, maybe 2 weeks, we'll start getting some things replanted down in the garden. So probably plant some butter beans, plant some black-eyed peas, try and get some tomatoes going, and then start doing some things in the house. I think I'm going to try some seed snails. If you're not familiar with those, do a quick little Google search and you can check those out. But if I do decide to do those, I'll show you those. I've never tried them before, but I like the idea. So I think I might try my brassicas, my broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage. I think I might try them that way. And maybe even carrots and onions, and we'll just see. But it's way too hot for any of that to come out here yet. It would just bolt, so I don't want to do that. Definitely have to start them inside. But anyways, thanks for being patient and coming back and checking things out. I'm going to get to harvesting. Got a bunch of things to pick and then a bunch of things to process. So the day's only getting hotter. So I'm going to leave you with some sounds and sights of the farm. And thanks for coming along. And I hope you're having a great day.